If your firm feels one good decision away from a breakthrough, then this is for you. We're hosting our first mastermind of 2026 in Phoenix on February 26th and 27th. And it's 2 days designed to actually move your firm forward and grow who you are as a leader. Day 1 is a full day of hot seats where you break into groups and work through the real problems in your business. Day 2 is our wellness workshop featuring sessions that help you boost your energy, lower stress, and think more clearly. We have Jocelyn and Aaron Freeman, host of a top 10 marriage podcast and masters in psychology, teaching relationship skills that you'll use at work and at home. A lunch and learn on habit formation with Tyson, and more. View the full event details and grab your seat at maxwellevents.com.
Get ready, because here's your host, Tyson Mutrux.
Good morning and welcome back to the Guild Live Show. I've got a good one today. We're going to be talking about sparks. This episode was inspired by a conversation during one of our huddles the other day. And what we've been doing lately is we've had, instead of having Amy run every single huddle, we've actually been having one of our teammates run the huddle. So lots of cool things that what I'm about to talk about is one of many cool things that we did. But Kashif had done one where he had used this really cool, shocker that, Kashif, our CTO, would do this. Use this software to do this polling where we all got our phones out and we scanned a QR code and we completed these polls in real time, and it created all these cool graphics on the screen as we were doing. That was really cool. But this one it was a pretty simple one, but it was really cool and it sparked an idea. And we're talking about the whole spark and the idea of a spark and good sparks, bad sparks. But with this one, it was a pretty simple prompt. There were 5 questions. Do you like real Christmas trees or fake Christmas trees? Not whether or not you use them, whether or not you like which one you like more. Favorite Christmas movie. Do you like Christmas music? And that's the one I want to focus on. There's 5 total questions, but we're going to focus on that one because I don't like Christmas music, and I don't think most people do either. If I'm being honest, I don't think most people like Christmas music. They tolerate it, is what it is. And my proof for that is that unless you listen to Christmas music year round, you probably don't like it. Okay. So I know I might get some hate mail for that, but I think that that's the truth. And because if it was really good, then you would listen to it more. I made that comment, and Justice, my assistant, she said, well, you should create your own music then. And I did. But that was the spark of an idea, right? I'm not saying it was a good idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It was a spark for an idea. And so I created a couple songs, but this went a little bit further. Okay. So I am not one to take a challenge lightly. So this is the first one. Okay. So, bear with me here a little bit, and I'm not going to play the full.
Santa's late.
Skip it ahead a little
Mama's got wine in a paper plate.
That part's hilarious.
Dad's outside untangling lies, calling it decorations.
So I thought it did a pretty good job. I used lyrics to song.com. What I did is I went to ChatGPT. This is not an AI episode, by the way, but this is more about the sparks. But so went to ChatGPT, told it what I wanted it to do, and it gave me a script. I didn't do any editing. I just threw it into this. That's why I think the part's funny about the mom's drinking wine in a paper plate. I thought that was hilarious. So that was that one. And then you've got this one here. A little bit of a different beat.
Underneath the tree tonight, we're rich in a borrowed way. Every second's a gift, we don't delay. If this is all we ever get, I'm good with that. Yeah, I'll bet. So turn it up, turn it loose.
Okay, so that was the second version. And that was there was only 2, but they were actually pretty decent songs, to be honest with you. I think that one was better. It took me no time at all, like 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And So with this, I'll kind of give you some more personal stuff. I had actually for months I've been sort of developing the idea of a song for Amy. Okay, so and I can't sing, so my plan was to use AI of some sort to create it. But that original sparked that old idea that I had. So you know what? The AI's gotten a lot better since I've started to do this, and let's see what we can do with it. And I gotta say, pretty badass. I'll give you the beginning of it. For those of you that don't know, Amy and I went to a really small school. We met in fifth grade. Okay, we started dating in high school. Like we are high school sweethearts. Okay, so this is this sort of a song about us, kind of growing up and then growing together. So I'll give you kind of the beginning. I'll let you decide what you think.
We were barefoot kids, summer nights, front yard stars and firefly lights, fifth grade promises, porch like goodbyes. Didn't know much, but damn, we tried. High school halls, Friday night lights, red Jeep humming on county lines, laughing loud with the windows down, nowhere to be, nowhere but now.
All right, that's just the beginning, and it gets kind of the hook, and I think it's amazing. My first thought was musicians are screwed. The sound on it is amazing. It's really, really good. It's awesome. So it was really cool. That was all from one little spark. Okay. So it went from talking about, we did something different, right? We were doing something different. We had a pattern interrupt in one of the huddles, and it sparked an idea. Just one little bitty tiny sparked a new idea. That's what I want to talk about. Yeah, that's why I want to bring this up. How powerful changing things up, and when that spark happens, what do you do with that spark? I think that's really, really important. And I think that most people, they think of sparks as lightning bolts in a way. And really what they are is they're just moments of friction. I mean, it could be someone, challenges a belief of yours, it could be a personal irritation, some sort of, quiet recognition. Oh, that makes sense. Like something like that. It could be any of those things. It's not usually like whoosh, a strike of lightning. We're like, oh my gosh, I've got this amazing idea. It's usually where some sort of friction has been created, and then the idea. So I would say it's more like static electricity than a lightning bolt. You know what I mean? Where you've got that friction that causes that spark. So it made me kind of think about like companies. Like I actually did a little bit of research because I was like, I wonder what companies were started just like on a spark. And one of the big things that came up was Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs was at Xerox PARC. So he was at Xerox PARC, and he's the one that he noticed the obvious potential of the mouse. Like that was one of those things where I think they were just going to throw it out. He just observed that could be a really good thing. And he was absolutely correct. It could be a really good thing. And so I think part of this is recognizing when you have a good idea. Part of this is recognizing that maybe it's not such a good idea too. So if part of this is like weighing in, like, okay, how much time is this going to take to accomplish? What's the end goal of all this? You do have to kind of take some of these ideas, because some of them I probably overanalyzed this a little bit, overthought this a little bit when it comes to how to dissect this and figure out whether this is an idea you should follow. A big part of it is time. If this had taken me, 12 hours, I wouldn't have done it probably, but it was something that was fun. It was part of the team. Bianca, she's our receptionist. She's like, I'm going to play this at our Christmas party. So like she really, it's one of those things where it was, for me, it's like a morale thing. And then I kind of pivoted to the personal side of things. It's like, I played it for Amy last night, and it was like, she was bawling, crying, and because she loved it so much. And there was massive upside for the amount of time that I spent on it. So another part of this too is whenever I was thinking about, okay, how do we develop sparks? Like, and I don't think you develop sparks, right? You don't just you don't find ways to create sparks. What you do is you create conditions to create sparks. Okay. So you have to create conditions. And one of the conditions for whenever the whole thing started with the song, right, was we had changed the morning huddle where it was a pattern interrupt and the conditions were different, right? We had created different conditions. It wasn't our typical, okay, what was my done well from yesterday? What's my focus for today? There wasn't any of that, right? It was, okay, well, what is the, do I like Christmas trees? Do I like real trees or do I like fake trees? Do I like Christmas music? Like, what's my favorite Christmas music, Christmas movie? Which Scrooged, by the way, is the best Christmas movie, in case you're wondering. Scrooged with Bill Murray, you can't beat it. Not even close. So sure, I'll get some hate mail on that one too, but it's okay. I'm making lots of friends today, I'm sure, but Scrooged is the best by far. But you have to create these conditions for it, right? You have to create these conditions for creating sparks. It's like another example is Sarah Blakely. She created Spanx. She created Spanx because she hated the how pantyhose looked under white pants, because she liked wearing pantyhose and she didn't like the way it looked. So the conditions were there, their conditions were ripe, and she was able to recognize. Another part of this is like recognition. So you've got these conditions. Some of these conditions are created for you, and then you have to recognize it. Other times you're creating these conditions. So I don't think you could just say, hey, let's do an idea factory. Sure, you could do that. I'm not so sure that you're going to get the sparks that you're looking for, but you do have to give a little bit of space for things like this, where I do think having some sort of thinking time really, really important. It was funny. I went home the other day and I went and I laid on my bed because I just wanted to think. Okay. I just wanted to think. Because I was thinking about, actually wasn't thinking about work. I was thinking about, we're doing a bathroom renovation. I was trying to solve a problem as what I was trying to do. And so I just laid on my bed and Amy thought I was taking a nap. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were just working back here. And I said, no, I'm just thinking. I was like, come on in. And it worked. It was one of those things where like I'd sort of created this, I'd taken some space, I'd created an environment for me to sort of push everything out and just think. So when you're thinking about, okay, if I'm going to create these conditions or if I'm going to set aside time for, idea generation, I would more think about it as taking time for giving you some space to think, as opposed to like trying to generate ideas, actively generating ideas. That is not the easiest thing to do. The brain doesn't necessarily work that way. You have to give it a little bit of room. All right, so let's go through some of these where I think I've overanalyzed this a little bit, but I do think ways of identifying sparks for good ideas and versus bad ideas. One way to look at them is like, think of it as a hypothesis and not as a commitment. So just because you have the idea doesn't mean you have to do it, right? Because I do think one of the biggest mistakes that we make is treating every idea like it's like some sort of like life-altering decision. Like everything's a game changer. Like, oh my gosh, this idea is a game changer. And then what happens? We've all done this. We've all been there where we have this idea and then we think it's going to change everything in our firm. We go do it. It doesn't make a difference at all, right? Or we execute poorly on it, or it just was a bad idea. That happens too. But knowing when to pull the ripcord on that, okay, you've got your hypothesis. Let's test the hypothesis. Didn't work. Pull the cord. Let's go. Let's move on to the next thing. So pivoting, fast decision making. I talked about this on a previous episode. One of the greatest indicators for success is making quick decisions. And part of that is, okay, we've made a poor decision before. Now let's make a better decision. So you're going through a lot of decisions. So for example, let's say that you've got one person that has, 10 ideas that they make, or 10 decisions that they make over the course of a week. Okay. And then another person that makes 1,000, right? Well, let's say the person that makes 1,000 decisions, they probably make a lot more mistakes, but they make a lot more right decisions than the person that makes 10 decisions. And so that's the whole idea, is because they're making so many decisions, boom, 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 they're boom, next thing. Okay. And part of that is one of the decisions is recognizing when you've made a mistake and pivoting to the next thing. So, all right. So here's some of the cheap tests that you can use to figure out if you've got a good idea or not. Michael Dell says ideas are a commodity, execution on them is not. Okay, that's a big one. So I like some of these where here's how I identify a bad one. And actually, before I do that, let's get into. I've created a mid-roll read for Becca's List. I want to make sure I brought up Becca's List because it's something that we're really proud of. I think Becca's List it's something that is truly amazing. It's something that I wish we had when we first started our firm, because one of the biggest things that people go to the big Facebook group, the Maximum Lawyer Facebook group, is they want to figure out, okay, what's the best phone system? Who to use for SEO, all of that. And what Becca's List does is actually levels the playing field to tell us who's the good, who's the bad. Okay. That's in reality, it gives us an idea. Okay. Who's overcharging, who's a good value, but it is one of those, it's a tool, it's a resource. It's free for lawyers. Okay. It's free. It costs you nothing. It's just information for you. Okay. I would also, I guess a small favor is if you would, give reviews for products and services that you've used, that helps everyone. It's the whole rising tides thing. So Becca's List, if you've not been there, beccaslist.co, also beccaslist.io. I probably shouldn't tell you that, but either one, those go to the same one. beccaslist.co helps us all. I think one of the biggest, most dangerous sparks that you could have is the wrong vendor choice. You have an idea about something and you choose the wrong vendor. Maybe you get like a flashy demo and some sort of trendy tool that you're seeing, or there's some sort of like promise that they give you that just sounded so great in the moment. I had that with a vendor, paid them 20 grand up front and then they never delivered. That was one of those painful lessons where had a spark, it just didn't work out for me. Okay. And I think if I had Becca's List, probably wouldn't have done it. Probably wouldn't have happened. So Becca's List is there to kind of slow down those sparks that aren't the good sparks. It's one of those things that allows you to reflect, decide, okay, is this a good move for me? And if not, you move on to the next good spark. Okay. Anyways, enough about that. beccaslist.co. Free. It's free for attorneys. Okay. It's absolutely free, 100% free, will always be free. Check it out. Yeah. All right. So how bad sparks sneak in? And you have to remember, like, not all sparks, they deserve oxygen. Okay. Not all of them do. Many of them are driven by emotion, not even by curiosity. It's just by emotion. Sometimes it's just seeing that someone else has it. And that's a good clue, good red flag. If you see it, someone else has it, and you say, I want it, probably that's a good indicator that may be something. It's at least gives you enough. You got to have some pause. Okay. Before you go through it. All right. So shiny object sparks, those typically show up when things are new or trending. I always forget the name of this thing. I feel like NFTs, but then also there was that social media app where people are talking in rooms. It might still be around, but I never got it. And then next thing you know, it's like hardly anyone uses it. I bet it still is around, but it's just one of those things where if it seems flashy, it's not really your spark, it's someone else's spark. Okay. So ego sparks is another one where you're wanting to prove something. The song one I did earlier the other day, maybe a little bit of an ego spark, but it turned into a better spark. So if you're just starting something just to one up somebody, probably not a good idea. Fear-based ideas. So you have some sort of idea that's generated out of fear. You're doing it because you think, I've got to do this right now because someone else is doing it, or whatever the fear might be. Things like that could like lead you to switching software every other week, like that could be that's a really good indicator. Procrastination sparks. So things, they feel productive, but what you're doing is you're avoiding discomfort, and the discomfort that you need to go through because something is the way. I can't remember the full saying, but basically the more difficult path is usually the way. And so that's the idea. Overcommitment, where you're confusing your excitement and you say, oh, I'm all in. Let's do this, right? I am all in. Let's do this because you're excited. Just hold on a second, take a little pause. You may be off on the wrong track. And so just if you find yourself, oh, I'm all in on this, maybe you might want to pump the brakes just a little bit to find out if you truly are on the right track. And then I guess the last thing I want to talk about is maybe kind of capturing some of these sparks, these ideas, and without being a hostage to them. So I'd say that most people probably either forget the ideas that they have, or they act on them too fast, maybe, where they're not. So they don't document them somewhere. Like, for example, what I talked about with the song that I wanted to create for Amy, like I'd created all these notes. Okay. I'd created all these notes on it. The technology wasn't there because I can't sing. Technology wasn't there. My other option is to pay someone to sing it. Right. Like I could have done that at some point, but I had not quite forgotten about it, but it was kind of, off somewhere, but I documented it. Right. Had I, try to create something right away, it wouldn't have worked. Right. Because the technology wasn't there. I would have acted too fast. So be careful, document it somewhere, document these ideas. I have, for those of you that have been, listeners for years, you know that I've got books, I've got volumes of books that I've filled out with notes, right? And then I've got a Remarkable now that's full of notes. Those are very, very powerful for me. I mean, I've got a stack of them here in arm's reach, where like I can just reach over and grab them and just, I will sometimes go through them and it'll generate new ideas. So for those of you that are watching, like there's one of my many mind maps that I like to use. So that one was, I probably did this one back in law school, elements of the law firm. So I've got all these different elements of a law firm, things like that, where I had those back from whenever I was in like high school. So documenting all your ideas somewhere, super, super valuable. And then finding the right time to execute on them, and then executing on them. What Michael Dell was talking about. You have to execute on these ideas. Otherwise they don't matter. I've talked about that before at Max Lock On. I've talked about it before on the show. Good sparks will come back. Okay. Bad sparks will fade. So take a pause whenever you have them, write it down, think about it. And if it truly is a good spark, freaking go and crush it. Go execute on it. If it's not, you got to abandon ship and move on. Okay. Those of you that have tried to build a case management system, you understand. Those of you that have, you know who I'm talking. I'm not going to call you out, but you had at some point, you had to pull the cord, right? And you had to jump ship. So what you have to do. So another thing is important in sort of creating an environment for this. I'll go back to that for a second and then we'll wrap up. But I just want to make sure I mention this. Having those chances for pattern interrupts, really, really valuable. It's like a jump start for your brain, where you can easily go on autopilot. And by having those pattern interrupts, by changing our daily huddle, it's not like we didn't abandon what we normally do. We'll go back to that after we've cycled through all of our team members, running the huddle. But it's that pattern interrupt, something different. If you're kind of in a rut, take a day off, or work from home, or stop by a coffee shop if you don't normally, like something where you do something different, right? Can create different conditions, and you'll see different results. That's how it works. But that's all we have for you this week. I'd say that the probably the best sparks whisper, the worst ones probably shout. So keep an eye on that. Best sparks whisper, the worst ones shout. So I'd pay attention to the ones that you almost ignore, because I think one of them might quietly change everything for you. Have a good week, everybody. We'll be seeing you.